Before we even start today's sermon, let us do some recap. We have started off this First Corinthians series first talking about fractions between the churches, right? Some people in the Corinthian churches follow Paul, some people in the Corinthian churches follow Apollos, and some of them, they have different fractions. And Paul has been talking about unity within the church. And also last few weeks, we talked about sexual impurity within the church, okay? And we see that all these trends that happen in the First Corinthian churches are still applicable for us today. And from today's scripture passage, we talk about Corinthian churches. The Christians were engaging with one another in civil litigation in the secular courts. Now, most of these cases were civil and in nature rather than criminal, because if it is criminal, they will be caught by the authorities already. And these people, right, because they don't see eye to eye with each other, they started to sue each other in court. Do you see all these things happening in our current day and age? Do we observe people suing fellow brothers and sisters in churches? Now, Paul wanted disputes between brothers and sisters to be settled peacefully. But this passage, right, when we read this passage, it cannot be used to justify criminal cases such as child abuse or murder. You cannot say that, Paul asked us to settle within our church. So if there's a murder case, we cover, we bury we keep the body in room 3-whatever. No. That is criminal in nature. What Paul was referring to were civil cases. Okay, civil cases. Say, for example, if your brother, has a contract with you and then he breached this contract. Paul wanted these cases to be settled in the church. Okay, so it also does not cover the case of a believer and non-believer, right? They are all exclusively for Christians. So in a nutshell, Paul recommended them to choose one of the two alternatives. Number one, for the church to arbitrate disputes among its members in a wise and God-honoring way. Paul believed that God has already endowed the church with wise people to be able to judge all these cases rather than to leave it to the civil courts, right? And number two, to hold out the inheritance of the kingdom of God as an encouragement for those who might suffer losses following Paul's guidance on this issue. When do we normally see lawsuits within the church? I recently came across a non-church member who is a Christian. He told me that he is embroiled in a lawsuit because of inheritance issue. Okay, the mother passed away, left behind a house. Then the brothers felt that the house is not equally shared among all the siblings. And then instead of talking over it, they decided to sue each other in court. Then I was telling them, do you know that all these legal proceedings, right, the money goes to the lawyer's pocket, whether they win or lose, right? So this was what Paul actually meant. Okay, if you have conflicts within the church, try to settle it within the church. Okay, as long as it is a civil case, we are not supposed to, air our dirty linens in front of non-believers. So Paul, at that point of time, he considered all secular courts to be inappropriate places for Christians to take their internal disputes, because the people in the secular courts, they have not experienced the transformative power of Jesus and do not make judgment in light of the true wisdom revealed in the cross. Okay, so simply put, their worldview is different. And because of that, Paul says, if any of you has any dispute with one another, do you dare to take it before the ungodly? Also, during those times, ancient Roman courts could not be relied upon to administer justice impartially, since they were open to bribes and powers. Okay, they are partial to the status and powers of parties. Okay, if one is more influential, the courts would want to gain out of a relationship with this individual, and because of that, they will rule in favor of this person. Okay, and it does not have the modern notion of equal standing before the law. Okay, now in our civilized age, right, everybody has a voice. Even if you do not have money, the government will appoint somebody to fight your case. But in Paul's days, it is not the case. It is very corrupted. As long as you have authority and you have power, you are able to manipulate the outcome of your case. So today I titled my sermon title to be Inheriting Our Divine Right. Okay, we need to know our divine identity before talking about all these cases, all these practical cases in church. If not, okay, the teachings of Paul would just be a moralistic teaching. Oh, because Paul said this, so we do this. But if we are able to understand our divine right or divine identity, we will be in a better position to know how to deal with cases, such cases in the church. Okay, as we have read previously, right? If any of you has a dispute with one another, do you dare to take it before the ungodly for judgment instead of before the Lord's people? Do you not know that the Lord's people will judge the world? And if you are to judge the world, are you not competent to judge trivial cases? So Paul is saying that we, human beings, we are able to judge the world. And since we are able to judge the world, are we not able to judge trivial cases? It's only this contract, this person breached contract, this person never installed the lights properly and all these things. Are we not able to judge all these trivial cases? And then in verse 3, do you not know that we will judge angels? How much more the things of this life? We are not just able to judge the world, we are not just able to judge trivial cases, but Paul even said that we will judge angels. Wow, what is that? What is that Paul is talking about? We will judge angels? Why hasn't any pastors talked about this before? Human beings, Paul judged angels. We will judge angels. So for this segment, I want to invite any of the kids or adults to come on stage to tell me anything they know about angels. What do you all know about angels? You have sweet and chocolate and sticker. Anybody? What do you know about angels? Paul says that we will be able to judge angels. Come, tell me, then I'll give you a choice. One choice, you cannot take everything. Okay, what do you know about angels? They have wings. Okay, wonderful, take one. And I will give you a sticker as well, okay? Anything that has wings are angels? What about dragonflies? Are they angels? No, right? Okay, very good. Okay, you may go back to your seat. Anything else about angels? Come. Tell me, what do you all know about angels? You cannot say they got wings already, They are white in color. Okay, I give this to you, Do they have eyebrows? Eyebrows. Also white color. Okay. Okay, what do you know about angels? They are God's messenger. Very good. Give you a sticker and give you this one. What else? What else do you know about angels that are revealed from the Bible? Have or not? Okay, we entertain one last person, okay? It could be adults also. Anything else about angels? Wow, today's sermon talk about angels. Very interesting. Anything else? Okay, then we move on, So why did Paul mention about human judging angels? Because of his Jewish hope. Okay, people has asked me, do we as Christians believe what Paul say? I say, of course lah. We believe that the Bible is an inspired truth from God, right? So whatever Paul says, if there are segments that we don't subscribe to, then it's like cherry picking. Oh, this one I don't like, so I don't believe. This one I like more, so I believe. So what we as Christians believe is whatever Paul believes. So what did Paul believe? Paul has a Jewish hope, okay, of the end times of eschatology. From the Old Testament, from the book of Daniel, you will read, until the Ancient of Days came and pronounced judgment in favor of the holy people of the Most High, and the time came when they possessed the kingdom. So Paul believed that in the end times, okay, the righteous people will possess God's kingdom together with God. Okay, that was in the Old Testament. What about the teachings of Jesus? What did Jesus talk about in the end times? In Matthew chapter 19, verse 28, Jesus said to them, his disciples, truly I tell you, at the renewal of all things, when the Son of Man sits on his glorious throne, you who have followed me will also sit on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. So is it the disciples sitting on 12 thrones judging Israel, or some of them sitting on 12 thrones judging Israel, or all of us sitting on the 12 thrones judging Israel? We do not know. But what we know from all these things is that, the people of God will be playing the role of a judge, okay? And in Luke chapter 22, verse 29 to 30, and I confer on you a kingdom, just as my Father conferred one on me, so that you may eat and drink at my table in my kingdom and sit on thrones judging the 12 tribes of Israel. You see, Jesus also brought forth the imagery of Revelation, right? Revelation tells us that we will sit with Christ at the final judgment to feast. And on top of that, Jesus revealed to us that we will be judging the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay, once again, whether will it be one of us judging the 12 tribes of Israel, or the apostles judging the 12 tribes of Israel, or the disciples judging the 12 tribes of Israel, or all of us judging the 12 tribes of Israel, we do not know for sure. But what Paul mentioned is that we will judge, okay, the unrighteous. We will judge angels. Okay, and in Matthew chapter 13, verse 41, the Son of Man will send out his angels, and they will weed out his kingdom and everything that causes sin and all those who do evil. And this includes evil angels. Do you all know that there are evil angels? Angels that do not listen to God's instruction. Eventually, they will be weeded out, okay, from God's angel, and us, we pronounce the judgment. So Paul believed that we will participate in judging matter of cosmic proportions. Wow, we have this divine identity. We are able to become judges in cosmic proportions. So what does it say about trivial cases? This auntie sue this auntie, that uncle sue that uncle. Are we not able to solve all these things within the church itself? Okay, so we take a look at more teachings on angel. Okay, the teaching on angel is called angelology. Okay, you learn a new English word today, huh? Now, all about angels required for understanding today on this slide already. And we mentioned that angels are white, right? Angels are not the one you see at the upper right-hand corner. Okay, the biblical imagery of an angel is not like that one, chubby, got wings, you know. Okay, so the roles of angels. The roles of angels revealed to us in Hebrews chapter 1, verse 14. Are not all angels ministering spirits sent to serve those who will inherit salvation? Okay, so the roles of angels, angels are there to serve who? Us. Remember when Jesus was tempted in the desert? Angels came to minister to him so that he can have strength to continue on beating the temptation. So in Hebrews, okay, these are all Bible verses. I did not invent all these things myself. In Hebrews chapter 1, verse 14, angels, their roles are to serve us. And hence, the Catholic Church believes that every one of us have a guardian angel looking over us. Okay, every one of us will have a guardian angel looking over us. And this is supported from Hebrews chapter 1, right? Angels are there to minister to us, the people who inherit salvation. This is their role. Second, our struggles on earth. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realm. So are these struggles at this side of eternity? Are these struggles that we can see? No, okay? The struggles are a spiritual struggle, struggles that we cannot see beyond what we can sense, okay? They are struggles that lies in the spiritual realm. Now, what about the status of mankind? When we talk about God's creation, we talk about God, then you talk about angels, then you say angels serve man, then do man, where does man lie in the whole hierarchy of things? Are men superior to angels, or are angels superior to men? In Hebrews chapter 2, verse 6 to 8, it says that, what is man that you are mindful of him? This is also reflected in Psalms. That the Son of Man, you care for him, yet you have made him a little lower than the heavenly beings, and crowned him with glory and honor. You have given him dominion over the works of your hand. You have put all things under his feet. So the status of man relative to angel is that we are only a little lower below angels, and angels are there to serve us. Can follow so far? Now, Jesus became man. Hebrews chapter 2, verse 9. But we see him who for a little while was made lower than the angels. Okay, Jesus was also for a little while made lower than the angels. Why? Because he assumed flesh. Okay, namely Jesus, crowned with glory and honor because of the suffering of death, so that by the grace of God, he may taste death for everyone. So we mentioned that Jesus is fully human and he is fully God. If Jesus is, or I cannot say if, okay, since Jesus is fully human, he must assume a role that all of us have, a fleshly role, and a role that is beneath angels. Can follow? Can? And then eventually, Jesus will elevate all of us above angels. That is in Hebrews chapter 2, verse 11 to 2. For he who sanctifies and those who are sanctified all have one source. That is why he is not ashamed to call them brothers, saying, I will tell of your name to my brothers in the midst of the congregation, I will sing your praise. So because of our identity in Christ, we are Christ's brothers. Okay, we are also children of God. Do you all know that God don't have grandchildren? You cannot say that, oh, because my mother is a Christian, so my mother is a child of God. And because I am my mother's child, so I am a grandchild of God. Don't have, okay? All of us are God's children. And because we are God's children, we are Jesus's brothers. Okay? And because of that, God will rise us up at the end of days, okay, higher than angels to judge angels. And this leads us to the final verses that we read today, 1 Corinthians chapter 6. Do you not know that we will judge angels? How much more of the things of this world? So this is our divine identity. Okay, we have so much in us that we are always, that a lot of times we lose focus and focus on the things that are temporal. Okay, so we have a divine purpose. What is our divine purpose? Knowing our divine identity. What is our divine purpose? Knowing our divine identity. Now, just like Adam and Eve, they were supposed to make all the world Eden. Okay, God placed them in the Garden of Eden to allow them to prune, to manage the garden so that the nations of the world will know that this is how God's garden is supposed to be like. So Adam and Eve they had a divine purpose, but they did not fulfill their divine purpose. So similar to them, we have a divine purpose, and our divine purpose is actually the same as Adam and Eve, to show forth God's order in this created world, okay, to make heaven be on earth. Okay, so this is our divine purpose. So Paul mentioned, if any one of you has a dispute with one another, do you dare to bring it before the ungodly for judgment instead of before the Lord's people? So if any of us have any dispute within the church, where do you bring your dispute to? Okay, we try to do it within the church, because God has already placed these wise people within the church to help us settle all these disputes. So that is our divine right, And we want to act out our divine purpose, okay? Remember the purpose Paul has for the church? We want to act out of our divine purpose. We already know our divine identity, which is the same as what God has tasked Adam and Eve to do. We are supposed to show forth God's glory, God's order on earth at this side of eternity, so that when we say the Lord's Prayer, right, on earth as it is in heaven. So we need to act out our divine purpose. So, if you have such cases, why do you lay them before those who have no standing in the church? I say this to your shame. Can it be that there is no one among you wise enough to settle a dispute between brothers? But brothers go to law against brothers, and that before unbelievers. Okay? Following that, Paul mentioned, to have lawsuits at all with one another is already a defeat for you. Why did Paul say that? Why did Paul say that to have lawsuits at all with one another, it is already a defeat for you? Because we are unable to communicate in love, because we air our dirty linens out for the world to see, so that people can say, you see, Christians also like that, ma. Why do I want to be Christians? You also sue each other in court, ma. So what's the difference between me and you? Right? So to have lawsuits with one another is already a defeat for the church. It's already a defeat for the church, because the people around us cannot see love that is amidst us. Okay? And then Paul followed on by saying, why not rather suffer wrong? Why not rather be defrauded? Paul wanted them to rather suffer wrong. Paul wanted them to rather be defrauded instead of taking their case to the civil courts. This also allows us to adopt a certain form of spirituality, right? Sometimes when we disagree with our brothers and sisters in Christ, are we able to be wronged? Are we able to be defrauded for the glory of God, for God's kingdom? But you yourself wrong and defraud even your own brothers. Okay, so that was Paul's message to them. Okay, so we see from this verse, it is already a defeat just to have lawsuits. And Paul's recommendation is actually for all of us to be wrong. Okay, in Chinese there is a phrase, right? 错了会不会少一块肉? Okay, do you lose a piece of flesh by being wrong or defrauded? So Paul, this is the idea that Paul wanted us to adopt. It is not just in Paul's teaching. Jesus also talked about it, right? If a man slaps you on the right cheek, you turn to your left and then you allow him to slap you. If a person takes away your cloak, you also give him your tunic and all these things. So this is the New Testamental position on fighting for righteousness. Okay, in Romans, we are also informed that God is our avenger, right? Righteousness belongs to God. Justice belongs to God. So if we are wrong in the church, okay, we are supposed to solve it within our own community. But even if the outcome of this conflict is not to our advantage, Paul wants us to suffer wrong and to be defrauded. Why? Because of our divine identity. We are made for greater things rather than all these trivial things on earth. We are eventually going to rise up above angels to judge angels. Okay, so what is all these trivial cases as compared to our divine identity? So I end off today's sermon giving you all this information about our divine identity. A lot of times when we see ourselves, we feel that we are so small. Okay, we see that, we are not doing well at work. We have so much struggles, even in our families. We cannot manage our kids properly. We cannot even we cannot even come to a conclusion on who to wash the plates and all these things. Okay, we see too little of ourselves. Okay, Paul tells us that we have a divine identity. Okay, I want all of us to leave this place being informed of our divine identity, that we will eventually even judge angels. Wow. I have for you 4 questions for self-discussion. I know this is during the CPE period. You may spend more time in praying rather than discussing, but these are also reflection questions for yourself. Okay, so question 1, divine right. How do you view your own divine identity in light of what you have learned today? Okay, are we that do we continue to see ourselves as very weak, helpless, small? Making a mess of our own lives and all these things. Okay, this is our divine right. While I'm reading all these things, I invite the worship team to come on stage. Question 2, suffer wrong, defrauded. Why not? In the church, Paul wants us to suffer wrong. Paul wants us to be defrauded. Why so? Are we able to do that? On the third point, Paul's point, what is Paul's point in writing this passage for the church? Paul talks about, following the right person, which is God. Paul talks about unity in the church. Paul talks about a lot of other issues, sexual immorality and all these things. And now Paul talks about lawsuit amongst believers. Okay, so what is Paul's point in writing this passage for the church? If we are unable, if within our church we are only able to grow, but we are unable to glow, then we also cannot go out. Because when we go out, people will say, yeah, Christians only ma, all like that, same as us. I don't need to be a Christian because I don't see love among yourself. Okay, so what is Paul's point? And number 4, act. What do I need to change based on what I have read in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, 1-8? I invite our worship team to lead us in our response song.
All right, church, let us stand.